What's up guys, and welcome to the channel. My name's Micah, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Ruger American bolt action rifle. So this is an extremely budget friendly bolt action rifle that I'm sure all of you have seen at many different sporting goods stores. I saw it one too many times and decided that we had to have one of them. So we're going to be taking a look at this rifle today. We'll go through the different variations and versions that are offered for this rifle. We'll take a look at the features and specs. We'll go out to the range. We'll put a few rounds through it. We'll see how we like it. So stick around guys, this should be super exciting. And before we get too far along, I'll definitely show you that the rifle is unloaded here, so you can see that there is nothing in our magazine. And of course, our chamber is clear and safe as well. So safety is first, guys. That's extremely important, and we always want to be on top of that. So the Ruger American, right? There is many different versions of this rifle offered. So you kind of have the standard Ruger Americans. There is the compact version, there is the Predator version, there is the Ranch version, there's the Hunter version. So there's many differences between all these different versions offered. The one that we have here is going to be chambered in 308. So it is going to be the Predator version. So it does have a threaded barrel on the end. You know, we do get a standard Picatinny rail up top here. It kind of has that green color to the stock.
One easy way to view all the different models is just going to be to go to Wikipedia. You can kind of see the different models, the different features that each ones have, what calibers are offered in different models. So that's going to be a helpful tool if you want to kind of see all the different versions of this rifle.
So, and even though there is going to be minor differences between all these different versions, just us reviewing this will give you a pretty good idea of if one of these rifles is going to be the right fit for you. So now I have a couple different bolt action rifles, and I had always seen these Ruger Americans. I had a buddy who had one of them, and he seemed to like it. And so I kind of wanted to know what they're all about, how they shot, how they functioned, how they kind of felt overall. And I really wanted one chambered for 308. So now this rifle is going to be offered with 19 different caliber choices. Yes, you heard that correct. There is 19 different caliber configurations for this rifle, which is a ton. You know, you look at other bolt action rifles, your Remington 700, the Mossberg Patriots, the Savage Axis rifles. You know, you'll get a few different caliber options, but I don't think any are as good as Ruger having 19 different caliber choices that you can pick from. So, and those choices kind of just cover the full spectrum of different rounds, from small to large, fast to slow. Like I said, I really wanted one chambered for 308. So our rifle actually here is going to be the 18-inch barrel. So it's kind of a shorty rifle. I really like the overall size of ours, but for me, I just kind of wanted a 308 that was a shorter size, kind of maneuverable, easy to carry around. You know, I wanted to be out in the woods with a 308 and just have a bolt action rifle instead of like our AR-10, our SIG 716i. So this is kind of the niche that was filling for me. And with there being a lot of other bolt action rifle choices that are all around this $500 mark, you know, depending on what version of this rifle you get, depending on what it's chambered in, what the barrel length is, if it's the stock one, you know, the standard version, if it's the compact, if it's the Predator, if it's the Hunter, you know, your price is going to vary there a little bit. You know, I have seen these rifles offered with scope combos, you know, that come with a scope. We got ours without a scope, but then I put this Vortex 3x9x40 on it. But not to get too nitty gritty with the price, we'll just say that they're kind of around the $500 mark, which is in the same ballpark as all your other bolt action budget friendly rifles. Now, some of your other brands, you know, will make a bolt action rifle that maybe has a different look to it, a couple different features, so it can kind of be alluring to maybe look towards those rifles instead of maybe your Ruger American. But let me tell you guys, this rifle is the diamond in the rough. This thing is super rock solid. So we'll kind of start walking around the rifle. I'll show you some of the features and specs and what I really like about this gun? We'll kind of start at the front of it here. So you do get a threaded barrel on the one that we have here, which is kind of nice. You know, if you wanted to put a muzzle brake, you know, a silencer, anything like that. You know, there is 19 different calibers that this rifle is offered in, like I was saying. So if you get something like a 223, 300 blackout, you know, even 308, you know, you could shoot suppressed and this rifle would just barely whisper. So that's very cool. I feel like I don't see a lot of hunting rifles, bolt action rifles with a threaded barrel. So that kind of stands out. As you kind of move down the barrel on this, you know, the barrel just is extremely thick on this rifle. It just feels very heavy duty. The finish on this barrel, on the gun, all the components, is second to none. You know, some of our other rifles, if I have them out on a humid day, or if it's been raining and some wet leaves, you know, a sweaty hand, anything like that gets on them, they will develop surface rust very easily. I have never found a speck of surface rust on this rifle, and I've never cleaned it yet. So in all the bolt action, you know, budget friendly rifles out there, I think the Ruger American by far has the best, most durable finish of anyone I've ever seen or shot. As we kind of start moving down, the barrel is going to be free floated on here, so it does not touch the end of the stock here. Speaking of the stock, you know, this is a wonderful quality polymer. When compared to other polymer stocks out there, the Ruger is just at the top of the pack. It's great quality, it's durable, it's light, it's kind of everything you want. When comparing this to my Mossberg Patriot, I mean, the polymer stock on this just feels so much better, and I can't exactly tell you why, but just holding it, just feeling it, it's just a great quality stock. Now you do get a slight texture up here on the front of the stock. You know, you kind of get those bigger ridges there, which actually your fingers slide in perfectly. It has a really good feel in your hand. So in that texture kind of works all the way back. So if you had a hold that was closer to you or a hold that was further out, you know, there's plenty of options there. So I do like the range of that texture. You do get a sling swivel down on the bottom here. You actually get one on the rear as well. So that's always a nice gesture. You know, I love it when rifles just come with your sling swivels. It's something so small and so easy. I don't know why every manufacturer doesn't just put those on, but we always like to see that. Now, as we move on back here, we'll kind of talk about the rail. So I always like to see just a full Picatinny rail, you know, on a rifle, especially a budget-friendly bolt-action hunting rifle. That just gives you a lot of different options for sights, optics, you know, if you want a scope, if you want a red dot, you know, there is good length to this rail. So that kind of gives you a lot of room, a lot of area to work with, depending on what kind of a sight you wanted on this. We just kind of went with a standard scope on ours. That's going to be the most practical application for what we're doing with it. But, you know, some of these rifles, the Shorty Ranch versions that are chambered in like 450 Bushmaster, I would put a red dot on that all day long. That would be an awesome little ranch setup. Shoot, even a little 223 with like a Sig Romeo 5 on it. Just a great little coyote gun, kind of a ranch rifle. So I love, love, love the Picatinny rail there. Now, one other thing that I'll say is we're kind of working our way back. You probably saw the barrel on this is not fluted. It is just a standard smooth barrel. Same with the bolt. It is not a fluted bolt. It's just a very thick, smooth bolt. Now on some of your bolt action hunting rifles, you know, our Mossberg Patriot specifically, it has a fluted barrel, so kind of the cutouts along that, the whole length. It has a fluted bolt as well. Now in theory, what that fluted bolt and barrel does is reduce weight while still having the same rigid strength as just a full, you know, standard barrel. But actually, our Mossberg Patriot is heavier than this Ruger American. And when I was looking at all the different models, whether it was a Remington 700, you know, some of the Savage rifles, the Mossberg rifles, compared to this Ruger, the Ruger's actually the lightest, which is awesome. No fluting, no nothing, and it is the lightest when compared to equivalent models of different brands. And I think a lot of that is just in the stock. You know, it's just a great quality polymer. It is so hard, it's so rigid, but it's extremely light. As we look kind of on the bottom side of the rifle, so you do have your mag well here. So this rifle kind of came with just flush fit magazines. Most of your Ruger Americans are gonna have just a flush fit magazine. Now some will have a standard AR style magazine. You know, I've seen some of the 223 versions, even some 6.5 Creedmoor versions that will have a box mag down there, but ours just has the flush fit. It's a 4-round magazine. They say it's a rotary style. It doesn't really turn in there, you know, all your 4 rounds just kind of stack on top of each other. But great quality magazines. You know, at first when I felt this magazine, it felt so light. I mean, it feels very durable and, you know, very rigid. It seems to click in and out of there just fine. You know, I've never had any complaints or problems with it. And I believe that there is 10-round magazines that are offered for ours as well. There's a few different magazines that you can get, aftermarket ones, that I'm kind of seeing popping up, you know, as this rifle kind of gains popularity, which it's already very popular. You see them everywhere. But just the standard for our rifle is going to be the 4-round magazine. Now under here, what I will say as well, you might see these 2 little bolts. So they are just a hex key bolt or an Allen head bolt. So those 2 bolts are what holds in your rifle to your stock here. Now if you want to remove your barrel, you know, trigger assembly, everything from the stock, all it is those 2 bolts right there. Now, since we're talking about those, I will mention that the trigger on this gun is going to be an adjustable trigger. So you can adjust it from 3 to 5 pounds, kind of anywhere between there. Now, to adjust that trigger, there's going to be a small hex head, Allen head bolt that you can only get to when you take the rifle apart from the stock. So to get to that bolt, you will take your 2 bolts out here, pull those out, your rifle is going to completely come up from the stock, and right in front of the trigger assembly, about right here, is going to be a small hex head bolt. Now to adjust that trigger, turning that bolt all the way in as far as it can go, even if you get it as tight as you can, that is the 5-pound mark. So it does not go beyond 5 pounds, that is the tightest, that is the stiffest that you can make the trigger. Now, when you're going counterclockwise on that bolt, even if you take that bolt completely out, 3 pounds is the lightest that the trigger can get on this rifle. So they don't recommend completely pulling the bolt out, even though you could, and just put your rifle back together if you wanted it to just be a 3-pound trigger all the time. But if you want to have a 3-pound trigger, I would take that bolt all the way out and then screw it in a couple threads until you start to feel a little bit of resistance. That's going to be your 3-pound mark. So that's how I would adjust that, you know, if you're wanting to adjust it. It seems like our trigger, you know, as we got it, I have not adjusted it at all. It seems like it's at about 4, maybe 4.5 pounds. And I'm fine with that. I haven't found a need to immediately adjust it yet. So maybe if we were taking some longer shots, really doing some distance shooting, I might lighten up that trigger, but it feels great right out of the box. As far as the trigger itself, so it's gonna have a trigger safety on the front of it there. So that trigger safety needs to be depressed in order to press the trigger. If I'm just pushing on the side of the trigger, I am unable to press it. Your trigger safety must be depressed in order to click that trigger. Now I do like the amount of room that you get in between the trigger guard here, which is polymer and it is molded in to the stock. So the trigger guard is not attached to the assembly of the rifle, it's molded into the stock. But great amount of room in here. I mean, you can kind of see, so even if you were out, you had winter gloves on, you know, you're doing some hunting in Alaska, whatever it may be, I always like to see a bunch of room around that trigger, you know, for when you are in those colder conditions and have just regular big winter gloves on. Now, as we work on back, coming to the bolt here, you know, it's fairly pronounced. It has a good sized knob on the end of it there. It's very easy to grab that, actuate that. I really like that. I like the angle that it's at. It slightly just comes back a little bit. Makes it very easy to grab when you are in your shooting position, you know, that you don't need to change. has a really good feel. It actuates very easily. Now what I will say, we'll depress our trigger here so that we're uncocked. So your bolt is going to cock right when you put it up. You do not need to pull it back in order to cock it. So we'll just put it right back down. That's when we were cocked. Now the bolt itself, we will pull that out of the gun just so you can see that a little bit better. In order to remove the bolt, on the left side of your gun, you're going to see a little spot here. So this little spot in the metal, it's flush right now, but upon actuating the bolt, we'll click it up and we'll move it back. You can kind of see that the front part of this you can kind of see that the front part of this recessed down into the rifle and the rear spot raised a little bit. So in order to remove the bolt, you just press on this rear spot right here, and pressing that releases the bolt from the rifle. So I'll set this rifle down here so we can look at that a little bit. Just a really big, heavy-duty bolt on this rifle. I mean, I understand it is for a .308, but you know, it all looks great quality. It kind of has a 3-lug system there. Kind of like the engineering on that. Everything looks very good. This bolt does have a little tab on the rear here, so that's going to be your indicator that you'll be able to see as the shooter to know if your rifle is cocked or not. In order to put this back in, we will just have our rifle here, and we will just put our bottom lug right in the center there. We just kind of slide it forward. And that's it. Very easy to remove your bolt. So now that little indicator that I was talking about, that little tab is going to be right there. If you can see that, it's kind of a stainless steel color. So if I depress the trigger here, you can see that that tab went up into the gun. You don't see it anymore. Now if we cock the gun, well, and I didn't even need to move the bolt back because it cocks right when I lift it up. But now you can see that that tab is visible again. And if I press the trigger, it disappears. So very easy to tell if your gun is cocked or not when you are in the shooting position. You can just simply look down right there and see if that little tab is visible or not. Something else that I really like on this rifle is going to be the tang mounted safety. This is just so awesome. This is a great spot for a safety on a bolt action rifle versus having it, you know, on the side of the trigger guard, you know, up front somewhere, even a little tab over on the side by the bolt. I've kind of seen a lot of different locations for safeties, but the reason that I like the tang mounted safety here is going to be that when you are in your shooting position, to check your safety, to see if that is on, you do not need to look at the side of your rifle. You don't need to move your head, your shoulders, or anything. The only thing you need to do is lower your eyes, and you can see if that safety is on or not. So I'm in my shooting position. I've got what I want in the crosshairs. Is my safety on? Nope, it's not. Perfect. Bang. So it's just small details like that that are going to make your experience with this rifle as a hunter, as a shooter, very enjoyable. As far as the safety, you kind of get a red F if it's on fire, and then you get a black S if it's going to be on safety. Fire is forwards, safety is backwards on that. But yeah, love the position of it. It's very easy to actuate with your thumb as well. You don't need to come out of your shooting position in order to toggle that. Oh, as we talk about the grip here for just a second, so the texture on this, it's nothing crazy. It's not too aggressive. You know, you get a kind of a fine texture across these little ridges, these little stripes that go across the grip. What I like about this is that these are about the width of my fingerprint on there, so that when I grab it with my palm and I wrap my fingers around the gun, my fingers kind of perfectly find their spot in between those little ridges, in between those stripes. So it does have some texture on the front of it there as well. Kind of just has like a smooth, hammered, almost like texture or finish to it. But You know, it does feel good. With it just being a bolt-action hunting rifle, you know, it's not like we need something super aggressive for, you know, a grip texture, but it works really nice, and I do like the pattern that it does have, those stripes. As you move back just a little bit further, you'll find kind of these cutouts, these recessions in the stock. They're going to be on the right and the left side there. So this gun accommodates your right-handed and left-handed shooters. And when you put your hand on this gun, it just feels like this rifle was made for my hand anyways. I mean, the meat, the pad of your thumb just perfectly fits in that recession, in that cutout there. And it feels really nice. I can't complain. As far as the rest of the stock, you know, it's just smooth. We don't get any different shape or pronunciation for your cheek or anything like that. So very symmetrical, very smooth texture there, and you work your way on back until you get to the stock pad. And the stock pad on these rifles is fairly meaty, you know? I mean, it's almost about an inch thick, it seems like, on the bottom part. Maybe 3/4 of an inch in the middle here, but it has good texture to it, you know, a good feel. It's firm, it's not too soft, and so I like that. You know, with our rifle being chambered in .308, we need a pad that's going to be a little bit firmer. If it were too soft, you know, we'd feel that stock through it. But I do like the feel of this stock pad. You know, I don't have any complaints. I wouldn't change anything about that. So, and that's really going to be the rifle in a nutshell. You know, like I said, there are many different versions of this gun. You know, different barrel lengths, different magazine types, different types of rails, you know, available, whether it's the full Picatinny, whether it's just a Weaver style rail, different stocks available. You know, I think there is some Magpul stocks that you can get for this gun, different than the stock one obviously is. And then I think there's some third-party manufacturers that make some wood and walnut stocks as well for these. But as far as the rifle that you just get out of the box, you know, with no modification, this thing is absolutely rock solid. I have zero complaints on this. I mean, the finish is great. The stock works just fine. The trigger is really nice, and that you get that adjustability, you know, between 3 and 5 pounds. I like that there's no fluting on the barrel or the bolt, and it still comes in lighter than your different bolt action rifles that have the fluting. Just the motions when you actuate everything on this gun, it's just butter. I mean, absolutely every motion feels so good. I have zero complaints with this rifle so far. So now we'll head out to the range. We'll put a few rounds through this rifle. We'll see how it shoots, see how it feels. We'll see how accurate it is. So stick around, guys. This should be super exciting.
right, gals and girls, so we've got a target set up at 100 yards out there. I don't know if you can kind of see it with the sun. It's just dead ahead. It's a couple logs stacked on top of each other. So we've got our standard target. It's about 8 inches or so. Little bullseye on it. It's maybe 1.5 inches, but it's dead ahead at 100 yards. So we're gonna take 4 or 5 shots at it here, and we'll see what our grouping looks like. So I don't have a gun rest. All I'm using today is this little V-shaped attachment. I just put it on top of my camera tripod. So actually that was like one of my best investments. You know, there's all those shooting sticks and stuff like that out there. I mean, they're like $100 for some of them. And you go to Walmart and get yourself a $9 tripod, and then just get this little V-shaped attachment on eBay. I think I got it. But I'll put a link to it so you guys have that as well. Oh, got my magazine right here. Almost walked away. I thought I left it on the truck. So we've got 4 shots in there, 100 yards. We'll see what our grouping looks like. We'll see how accurate we can be with our little makeshift gun rest here. I think we'll do all right. All right, nice and easy. Nice and easy. See what happens. Let me zoom in my scope here. All right. Not the most steady gun rest, but we'll see what we can do. Well, and our target dropped off there. That 308 kind of toppled our logs. Let me go out and set it back up here. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. Well, we'll just let's go and stand up our target. All right, I tried to stack our logs a little bit better, and then I put that target kind of up on top of the log, so we should be fine now, but we'll see what happens. All right, shot number 2, here we go. Yep, target stayed up. Shot number 3. That's all she wrote. I want just one more here. So we're gonna throw in one more round. Get off my finger, rag. I want at least 4 in a row without having to go out there and set up our target again. Felt good. They all felt really good. Yeah, this gun just handles the recoil of 308 really well. You know, I've had some other 308s, shot some other 308s, but I'm really impressed with just kind of the ergonomics and the overall feel of this Ruger American. What would really be a good test is to have this chambered in the 6.5 Creedmoor round, so I could directly compare it to like my Mossberg Patriot. That would be a really good comparison, but it handled the 308 exceptionally well. So we'll go grab our target here and see what the heck stuff's looking like. So, I don't know exactly how to explain this, but that is the best shooting that I've ever done in my entire life. What I'd be interested to do would be have the gun in a gun rest where it was not moving at all, so we could see, you know, how exactly the MOA grouping was at 100 yards, you know, just completely in a vise. But I don't know what to say there, but very good. Very good. We're very impressed with the Ruger American so far. So I think we'll just put a couple more shots through it. I do enjoy shooting this thing, so wow. Yeah, sorry, we just had to finish strong with the Glock. I brought it, might as well shoot it, right? But as far as the Ruger American goes, my goodness. I don't quite know how we got the grouping that we did with this rifle, because it's not like I am a gun vise that I was holding it perfectly still. But the, the grouping was awesome. I mean, probably an inch at 100 yards, so, you know, I'd be excited to come back out tomorrow and, you know, put 10 shots at 100 yards, bring a different gun vise, and kind of see actually how accurate the rifle is. With a few more shots, we're kind of losing daylight today, so I gotta call it quits. But man, the gun feels good. It just functions perfectly. Everything is so slick about it. You know, I would give this 5 out of 5 stars for sure. And that it's around the $500 price point. I mean, how can you go wrong with this thing? You know, get it in whatever caliber you want. Get it in whatever style you want. If you want the compact, if you want the Predator, the Standard, the Hunter, there's a lot of different versions of these out there for you. So I would definitely recommend getting one. I'm actually going to get another Ruger American for a bolt action gun in a different caliber. You know, if I end up getting like a 223 bolt action, it is 100% going to be a Ruger American. So actually maybe a 450 Bushmaster. I've always kind of wanted one of those. But yeah, absolutely impressed to death by this rifle. So go out and get yourselves one. You won't regret it. Otherwise, like the video if this helped you out. Subscribe if you want to see more, guys. And until next time, have a great night.